Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, you guys will hear my rating at the end of this episode. So, anyone want to start us off on episode 3?
I can. Clearly, I liked it more than you guys, but
yeah, I mean,
hey, I'm gonna.
You do you, dog.
Yeah. So starts off right. Sabine's training with Hu Wang.
Yeah.
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang.
I suck at saying that name. Hu Yang. But he's got 4 sabers up. Like, gave me the Grievous vibe. Anyone else get the Grievous vibe?
Oh, absolutely.
No. I didn't keep Grievous vibe, but but I did like that scene a lot. Honestly, I liked that scene more than what happens right after when she puts the like blast shield down and she fights Ahsoka. That to me felt a little gimmicky. It was like too much of a callback to like Luke and original trilogy, or they're all like, oh, put the blast visor down, whatever, And Ahsoka, I like Ahsoka, yeah, but like Sabine, she doesn't really have that connection to the Force already.
Yeah.
I was just kind of mad. But yeah, Hu Yang, I thought that was sick. How he's got like, they weren't lightsabers, right? But they had like the lights.
The hollow.
And as he's like calling out like the different like stances, and she's like progressing through, and then you can see kind of like where she's attacked and where she's hit. I thought it was a really cool scene.
No, I think that was cool too, because it showed that she wasn't hitting everything perfect, right? Mm-hmm. Like it kind of showed that there was like some weird slants in it, and she wasn't hitting it. And then Yang like mentions that afterwards. He's like, you're the worst. Like you're not weren't supposed to be, like, you wouldn't even be chosen, like how bad you are. And so it kind of just shows, like, even though she is Mandalorian and she's good with weapons, she's good with the Mandalorian style weapons. She's not Jedi material. Yeah. And to contrary to what Jake said, I actually did like that scene where she put the visor down, because I'm like, yeah, it did give me like Luke Skywalker vibes when he was training, And so I actually was like, oh, that is a cool callback. I like that, because I feel like because of Rebels and because of and like Clone Wars and all that stuff, there's a lot of connections between the shows there. And yeah, I mean, Empire and all that stuff is a huge thing for the original trilogy, but we don't get to see anything back to like Luke Skywalker himself, Mm-hmm. And so, again, other than just occasionally a few little scenes here. But that was, I enjoyed that. I thought it was a cool callback for it.
I also loved the soundtrack in that, so I actually looked it up. It's called More Than Just Your Eyes. That's the song. And it was actually one of the better songs that I heard throughout the episode. So I looked it up. I Shazammed it while I was watching, because I was like, I want to know which one in the soundtrack it is, right?
Do you know who the...
Kiner.
It was Kevin Kiner?
He's done everything for Ahsoka.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
So, and then it skips. You kind of already touched on the part where Ahsoka and Hu Yang talk, but before that happens, Hera goes to Chancellor, which at the time, first time watching it, right, Chancellor Mothma, like.
Yeah, Supreme Chancellor.
Chancellor Mothma.
That was actually
pre Andor, we would have been like, this is kind of lame.
Right.
Post Andor, we're like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I might push back there. So I get what they had to do there, and I agree. After Andor, Mon Mothma, like, worlds better, right? In Rebels and like all the other Star Wars media, Mon Mothma was like the worst. Yeah. And shout out Saw Gerrera in Rebels when he destroys her. Like, that was, she kind of drove me nuts. My biggest hang up here is, why isn't Leia the Chancellor, right? And here's why. Carrie Fisher passed away. She's no longer with us. And so I think that that's a large reason why, right? Obviously, then they'd have to, like, age her back a lot. And I think there's like, or, recast a younger Leia, whatever. Like, I think that makes it difficult. But for me, it's like, well, she was already, like, the senator or whatever. Luke, took out Vader, and the Emperor, well, Vader took out the Emperor, whatever. Right? So for me, it's like, logically, Leia should be the Chancellor at this point, in my eyes.
Politically.
I completely agree.
But I understand, like, they had to do, like, what they did. They had to work with what they had, and I think Mon Mothma is the best option that they had besides Leia. So, yeah.
I think, so I found out a tidbit. So the Hera Syndulla, when she's in that, and she's fighting against Yono, she's kind of on that banter. Xiono is actually it's either the father or the grandfather of the main character in Star Wars Resistance.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. So that connects there.
I knew that he was in Resistance, but I didn't know he was the main character's like grandpa.
Yeah, he's like a parent, there's some parentage there. But it was kind of cool. Just like, I mean, it's cool that the universes are kind of colliding on itself a little bit, and we'll see if
we need to spend time to watch Resistance.
Right, and if Dave Filoni's going to include that and make it like actually
inclusive.
Yeah, make it actually watchable, you know. But I thought that was kind of a cool scene too, because we got to see like
the blindness of the council.
Well, the blindness of part of the council, right? Because you saw Mothma kind of went and took Hera's side, because she went, and it was cool because in the recap I was watching today, they were talking about how in the original trilogy, Mon Mothma was like someone who was like pro rebellion, pro Jedi, basically, right? And so she was very much like that. But we get to see how she, at the beginning in Rebels, she wasn't. She was bum. And then saw Roaster, and then we see in Andor the two sides that she had to play to become who she is, right? And so she gained that much more depth, and because of that, she kind of rose through the ranks. But it's kind of cool to see that she's still like on that side. Like, she wasn't saying like, no, you can't, but she had to do what she had to do to like maintain her position without people like questioning her, right? But then she went up after to Hera and was just like, how real is this threat of Thrawn? And they're like, if he comes back, it's gonna be real. Yeah. It's gonna be real.
No, and I think that was like, I mean, shout out to Mon Mothma again, right? Like she's come a long ways, but yeah, I think you can still definitely see like she is the Chancellor. She's like sympathetic towards Hera, and they have that relationship of the rebellion and stuff. But I think you still see, right, like the Council's like completely incompetent. They're all like, you know, we didn't fight in the war, or we did fight in the war, and the war's over, and everything's good. You know, like we don't need to worry about anything. And, you know, like their kind of united voice of like the Empire's not a problem kind of like restricts what Mon Mothma can do, right? Because like she'd be like, yeah, Hera, go do whatever you feel like you want, you know, what you need to, but you know, it's not like an empire, right? She doesn't have the final say. It's like, okay, well, the council doesn't think that's the move, and so there's really nothing that I can do for you, right? And what does Hera do in typical Hera fashion? She's like,
yeah, okay, sounds good.
Cool. I'm out.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, I sometimes you're like, how many rounds of clueless senators are we gonna go through?
Yeah.
You know,
there always is, right?
They're getting murdered left and right. They just can't agree on anything. Half of them are just, you know, in it for themselves.
Yeah, just
you see in Tales of the Jedi, the senators are in it for themselves.
Yeah, Owen Frita gets freaking Crosshair kills him.
Yeah, like and then now we get it here again, live action. I mean, it wasn't any better. Do we even see senators in Mandalorian? I don't even remember if we do. Like,
I don't think so.
They're just so like blind to history. It's like, come on, man. Like, we just got out of a war because we were stupid and we didn't abide by history. So let's just forget all that and like,
it's like,
sure, maybe I've tried to use resources in the past to find Ezra and it hasn't worked, but like, that doesn't mean we don't have the resources. Like, that's the part that kills me. Is like, we have the resources. We own the Empire. Empire had everything.
Right, and to think, all she's asking is for a squad, which she is the general over. She should be able to not have to go through the council to say that. But she wanted to invest, like, she's the general. She should be able to take that without having to go through. So I think
which leads to my final point, what you just said. Her rank is too low. How is she only a general?
But I mean, what rank?
What's higher than the general?
Is it not? Is Commander not higher than general?
No.
Because you have all of like the clone
commanders,
and then Commander, Cody,
well, like,
General.
So it's like you could make her like, you know,
Fleet Admiral.
You can make her like a 3-star general, or maybe you make her an admiral, right?
Fleet,
but like. Yeah, I mean, all your admirals as well. They're all in like all the red
tape. You just would think that she just
would have. She'd have more pull. Yeah.
It's
right.
Like,
exactly.
It's like freaking in Rebels. What's his name? He's the admiral, the fleet admiral that lets Ezra through because of his own pride. McKenzie? Is it Admiral McKenzie?
Something like that.
We'll put a picture up. But that guy, like, how the heck does he have more pull than Hera?
Right.
And I mean, like, that's crazy.
No, it is tough, and it's just like, again, like you say, you know, it's just the blindness. It's like, how many times do they have to see this over and over and over again, and like Hera can, like, with all that she's done, right? you'd think that she would have like the knowledge and like the experience to be like, hey, I feel like this is a problem. They'd be like, oh yeah, we should take that into account. But no, they're just like,
That's
no,
why I love her roast on that Ziono guy. Like, oh, you just waited for the war to get over, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't fight in the war, you know.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was big time.
Yeah.
That was big time.
But then, so kind of going from that, I don't know if you guys have any other comments about it, but following something that I have been waiting for since the end of Rebels was seeing our boy Jason Syndulla, which goes to show, or happy that those human genes of Kanan Jarrus pulled through. So we're lucky he just got the gray hair. But I mean, it was cool to see him and to see him and his interactions with Hera, and Hera was seeing like a tiny Kanan Jr., you know, which made me happy because I'm like, finally, like we still get that connection to Kanan.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's cool that we got Jason in the show. We can talk about him. We'll talk about him a lot more, I think, in future episodes as stuff happens, right? I'm still kind of 50-50 on him. I think, obviously, great character. He's got great pedigree. Like, Hera and Kanan, right, are both amazing. I do like how they make him a kid, and, like, what would Kanan and Hera's kid be doing on, like, this massive ship? He'd be messing around with Chopper, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Chop would be all about that. And so I love that aspect of it.
Cool,
I thought it was great. And then,
Kind of had an Ezra vibe.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like, what's their kid going to be like?
Ezra.
Be like Ezra.
Like little Ezra.
Yeah. So, again, I don't know how the genetics all work out there if you just get green hair, but, like...
We're okay with this.
I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, moving past that scene, obviously we cut back to Ahsoka and Sabine.
They're talking at the table.
Yeah. Talking about the Force.
Yeah, talking about the Force. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's the conversation is so dull, and I think, and it's not bad dialogue. I personally saw it as Ahsoka just still not fully like embracing the fact that Sabine's back and that she was going to be trained. It's just her saying, like, oh, just do this, or oh, just do that. Like, it'll come easy if you just try. Like, that's not the official dialogue, but, like, that was the vibe. It's like, Sabine's like, I just can't use the Force. And she's like, well, it just takes training.
Right.
It's like, well, no, dip it that it takes training. Like, be helpful. Like, Anakin never would have, like, he might have said that to you, but it would have been in a way more, like, loving, not condescending tone,
Yeah.
Or, like, I have no feelings ever.
Right. Which I agree
with.
Which
we've been saying about Ahsoka for the first, part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that. The one cool aspect about that conversation, though, was it gave me kind of like Yoda to Luke vibe, where he's talking about the Force and how it penetrates and binds all the living beings, and every living being has a connection to it, right? Which is a heavy theme of this episode. It's a lot about like the Force and how it connects all the sentient lives, which apparently I mean, since the beginning of the show, I've been kind of like, no, don't make Sabine a Jedi. Don't make Sabine a Jedi. Don't make Sabine a Jedi. But then going back and hearing a lot of people's comments about how George Lucas has been saying this ever since, like, he had the franchise, which was like, every being has a connection to the Force. Every being can wield the Force in some form or aspect. And, I mean, we see that across the shows, right? With the Night Sisters and their magics, with some of the just Force wielders and some of the ancient civilizations, and so it's like, it's interesting to kind of see it, and that's kind of opened my eyes a little bit about being like, oh, okay, yeah, like maybe there's a thing, like, I don't think it's a cop-out answer like most people are thinking it is, but I think it's a more in-depth thing, and Dave Filoni being like George Lucas's apprentice, taking that and running with it in the way that he thinks that George would be okay with.
Well, yeah, we sent that meme in the chat from the quote from Dave Filoni saying anyone can be a Jedi, and we were all skeptical of that to a degree. We all were,
right.
because we grew up. It's like, no, Anakin wasn't supposed to be a Jedi. Qui-Gon said, "I'm training him. Sucks to suck," right?
Right.
But then, like 10 minutes dialogue later, she's talking to Hu Yang, and he's like, she's like, she's a Jedi, and he's like, not by the Jedi standard.
Right.
And so it's like our perception of what a Jedi was based on the level
Jedi
of
standard.
Jedi Council's decision making.
Yeah.
And so now that that's dead, it's like, okay, Cal, go get a girlfriend. fine. Kanan, go have a kid. Sabine, go wield a saber and try and use the Force, even though it's probably not going to happen. You know, why not? Who says you can't?
Yeah, right.
You know, who says you can't?
Yeah.
So, after re-listening to that in the episode, I was like, oh, like, does it still kind of rub me the wrong way that Sabine's trying to be a Jedi or an apprentice? Yeah, but that's just because of how I grew up thinking about Star Wars.
Exactly.
But this new concept of, oh, hey, the Order's gone. Who makes the rules now? You know?
Yeah.
Oh, a gray Jedi's making the rules now? Oh, okay. This probably can slide. You know? Like, it's a whole different perspective on it.
Yeah, well, and I'd argue it's the same perspective, but it's exactly what you're saying of, like, you know, we've grown up with this mindset, right? Because it's not a new idea, right? Qui-Gon, when he's talking to Anakin, he's like, midichlorians, they're within every living creature, right? Every living being has this connection to the Force, right? Kanan, Trials of the Darksaber, everything. You go back and you rewatch that with this idea of, like, anyone can be a Jedi, right?
You see
like,
it.
You see that. So it's not necessarily a new idea, right? But for us to understand that, it's just, like, totally new. Because it's like, right, we're thinking the same thing. When Hu Yang's on the ship talking to Ahsoka, he's like, yeah, she would have been way too old to go to the Jedi Temple, right? Anakin was too old, and he was, like, 9 years old, you know?
Yeah,
and Ahsoka, or Sabine's, like, full-grown woman, you know?
Yeah.
And
Sabine and Ezra were like, basically full-grown.
Oh, totally.
Season 1, Ezra's 15, Sabine's 16.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like they're
already there. She's already 10 years too old, pretty much.
Yeah, totally. And so I think, like, that aspect for me as well was, like, a cool moment to definitely connect everything, right? We have Qui-Gon Jinn, and, you know, I was a big, you know, great Jedi fan. I love Qui-Gon, Kanan, and now, you know, we have Ahsoka kind of talking about that same thing, right? Does that mean that I necessarily want Sabine to grow with her connection with the Force? Honestly, I think it could have been cool for her, and no spoilers for future episodes. We can talk about what happens. But at this point, I'm like, maybe it is cool if, you know, she's trained as a Jedi, but maybe she just doesn't have the Force, right?
Like a Grievous kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, she made do in Star Wars Rebels with the tools that the Mandalorians have, right? Like,
and she became proficient with the blade.
Exactly, right? So maybe that's what that means, right? Because, again, right, going back to that conversation between Hu Yang and Ahsoka, right? They're like, you know, she wouldn't have made it by Jedi standards, like, according to Yoda and the Council and, you know, what the Jedi used to be during the Republic. And Ahsoka says, well, she doesn't need to be that. She needs to be herself. Right?
Exactly.
And so maybe, you know, that's the direction that they take it. Instead of, like, okay, we're training her to be a Jedi. She's going to be a cookie cutter, you know, blue lightsaber, Jedi robes, Coruscant, Jedi Temple, whatever, you know. So,
I mean, you guys are going to hate this comment. That's why I'm smiling. But, like, kind of the flaw of the Jedi Council itself, right? The cookie cutter.
Yeah. No,
I mean, we say you are. You do what we say.
Well, yeah.
I could get
We're
behind
too
that.
blind. And all of a
It's
sudden,
more
Anakin's
like
hey,
right?
I have an emotion. Like, and they're like, don't
cut it
off, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, you can't stop. And he's like, what the heck? Like, why can't I be myself?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we need to move on from this, but like we hammered it out. But like, it is a great. I think we've all come to terms with it in a positive way.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I think for those, I mean, including myself, who's been very, not rigid. I've always been someone who's just like, I love what the Jedi were trying to be pre-Clone Wars, right? Pre-war time, where they were peacekeepers, where they weren't soldiers like Ahsoka had said, right? Where it's like, I need you to be a soldier. It's like, no, I don't. That's not who I saw the Jedi be. They had to step up to that role. But yeah, like Ahsoka said in End of Clone Wars, where she was just like, all I've known is war. All I've known is to be a soldier. Like, I've been told that I'm supposed to be a peacekeeper, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. And so I've always held on to that ideal. But now that it's almost like Dave Filoni's taking that back to where it's supposed to be, right? Where it's like these Boken Jedi, or these different Jedi who have been taught post-Clone Wars, post-war, we're bringing them back to what they're supposed to be, which is their true connection to the light side of the Force.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on to the next part of the episode, we have a fun little space battle, you know. Ahsoka, Hu Yang, and Sabine, they show up at Cetos, right? The Deneb system or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, you have some space battle there with Shin and Merrick and stuff. I thought it was. I mean, it was fun. One aspect that I liked, Ahsoka. They come out, they see the hyperspace ring, and I love the idea of the hyperspace ring.
Right.
Like I thought that was great, and making one big enough that it can jump galaxy to galaxy was awesome.
Right.
Sorry, I don't
no,
know
you're good.
on that, but.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something real quick. I didn't think about this until I was watching it through again, where the reason why people are like, oh, that's such a weird ship. Why would they build something like that? Because the point wasn't to build a ship in the shape of a ring just for kicks and giggles. It's a hyperspace ring to bring back Thrawn's Chimera, his Star Destroyer. Which then it's just like, oh yeah, like I didn't think about that at the beginning because I thought it was like, oh, I guess it's just Star Wars, right? Funny looking ships and stuff happen all the time. But it's like, no, now that makes even more sense, right? Because it's like he left with his Star Destroyer, and this massive ring looks like it could fit a Star Destroyer, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I thought one aspect of like the fight that I thought was kind of fun. Again, a callback to what we've seen in Clone Wars Rebels. Their ship gets shot down, whatever. They're floating dead in space, and Sabine's like, "Oh, I'm trying to fix the ship," and Ahsoka's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go outside and take care of business." She puts on the spacesuit and goes out and is like chopping the like ships up in space and deflecting. Like that just felt like it was like straight out of Clone Wars and Rebels, which was fun.
Yeah,
so
completely agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
So I don't know. That's about all I had from that. I don't know if you guys have any other comments on the space battle or anything.
Yeah, great. So just the last thing on that, I thought the dialogue between Sabine, Hera, and Hu Yang in the ship battle was really like Rebels-esque dialogue, kind of like Hera talking to Chopper when they throw the beacon onto the ship in episode 2. It was very much like, oh, you deleted my presets. And he's like, I didn't need them, or like that catchy,
like clever banter.
Clever banter between master and apprentice,
right?
To a degree,
right?
And
with that too, Hu Yang just kind of roasting her when they first like pull out of hyperspace and they pull out very far, and she's like, "Why are we pulling out so far from the planet?" And he goes, "Standard Jedi procedure." And she's just like, gets all upset about it. It's just like Hu Yang's just always roasting her about
constant, like this is the way the Jedi do it. And she's like, yeah, I ain't the Jedi, bro.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're no Jedi, so you wouldn't understand, right?
The last thing in the episode really is the Purrgil.
Yeah.
Similar to the Lothcat, great animation. Looks amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Looks
they
great.
did not do it wrong in the slightest. Felt just like Rebels.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect look. Like that was another point where I remember physically going, wow, they look amazing. They don't look janky. They don't look dumb. They don't
look like something out of a cartoon. It's like they made the jump to live action. Like this is how they would look in real life.
Yeah, right.
So
exactly. Like perfect exposure to like the color of the skin and everything. Like I was like, oh, they're not just bright and ugly, It's like they're dark. They're whales. They're supposed to look like whales, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this episode, I mean, it's a little bit shorter to talk about because it's technically a filler.
Yeah.
Technically is. Didn't feel like a filler.
No.
The first watch through until you finished it and you're like, okay, wait, they're still trying to go where they need to go, so it's technically a filler. But I mean, the episode ends with Balin, like just standing there, at the map location.
Yeah, looking dope.
And just looking like a dog, right? And I forgot what he says. She's like something about you, like, are you fearful or something? And he's like, no, it's like, I just, like, just poor, bad experience or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, not afraid of something, he just knows how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so, final ratings?
I can start us off.
Yeah.
I think, we brought up the point of it, like, maybe it doesn't necessarily have a feel of a filler. On the rewatch through a second time and, kind of just analyzing a little bit further, you can tell it's a filler, right? There were some aspects of it where I'm like, okay, this is just like Hera, or not Hera. I mean, obviously there's all the politics surrounding Hera, and there's, New Senate and New Republic politics. There was a lot of what felt like kind of like meaningless banter between Ahsoka and Sabine, where it's like, oh, I don't like you and I'm not going to help you. And it was like, okay, So for that reason, rating wise, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. The lowest that I've gone so far on an episode.
So it was as good as the first episode.
Yeah. and so I think like were there some good moments? Yeah, was it a good episode? Yeah, but I think overall like just kind of felt more like a filler. And if I'm gonna go back and rewatch an episode, it's not gonna be the first one I go to. So that's where I'd go. But
Agreed. Well, I think, and I'll go into mine. I mean, I'm gonna, as you guys can tell with the first two parts, I'm gonna be very generous to a lot of these. But this one was the one, like, I based the first two ratings off of how much I wanted to watch the next episode, right? And the first two really piqued my interest and be like, oh, I'm really loving the direction this is going. But yeah, like you guys said, it was a lot of filler, and it was a lot of just like setup almost for what's gonna happen next. So I wasn't like, oh great, like, oh yeah, this is making me super excited to see the next episode. It was exciting. I was excited to see the next episode in the sense of like, okay, let's continue. Like, this didn't really get me anywhere, but let's continue, right? And so I would give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay, I'm with Jake. We're going to 7 out of 10. I think we've said the word filler a bazillion times, but I think it was necessary filler. It wasn't like deadbeat filler. Like
it was good.
Like Rebels Season 3, Episode 14, Warhead. Seen that thing one time, never went back once.
Greatest filler.
Never going to see it again. Just absolutely the most filler thing ever. Not even Zeb doesn't even get character development in that episode.
No, right? No, there's nothing in that
anything that you're gonna pull from that other than some robot found the base and he has to kill it before it tells
his connection with AP5 and Chopper.
Yeah,
his friendship.
So that's true filler. This was a way better filler because it was just like we need this information and this development before
we get to
4.
the good stuff.
So 7 out of 10. Great episode.
Yep.
So, and on to episode 4.
Yeah, I think that's it. Catch the next video.